सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
If you've seen your TV channels or TV screens today, there's been a lot of excitement about the death of a man called Adnan Hanzla, known as Adnan Hanzla, Adnan Ahmed. Has a nickname, nom de guerre, I don't know, but Adnan Hanzla. It is said that he was one of the key figures in Lashkar-e-Toiba, not somebody who was fighting on the ground or who was carrying out operations on the ground, but somebody who had done recruiting, planning, etc., etc. And among the operations or the incidents that are blamed on him or for which he is held responsible are some really important ones or really significant ones. For example, there was one on August 5, 2015. That's when terrorists had attacked a BSF convoy. 2 BSF soldiers were killed. In fact, one terrorist had tried to force entry into one of the buses, and if he had been able to do so, a lot more would have died. But an alert and brave CRPF constable fired at him and killed him, and that's why this was foiled. After this, there was yet another attack, and that had more damaging consequences. That is when, in an attack on a CRPF convoy in Pampore in June 2016, 8 soldiers were killed and 22 were injured. So it was said that this man, Adnan Hanzla, he was behind organizing these, and he had recruited people, trained them, planned these operations. So a significant character. He was assassinated in Karachi. He was shot by gunmen coming on a motorbike, usually coming on a motorbike. That's become a kind of a pattern. Now, if you go to some of the websites, for example, if you go to Swarajya, they list a lot of these. I am quoting Swarajya because it's not possible to confirm each one of these. Many of these can be confirmed because these have also appeared in the Pakistani media. They've taken notice of it. In some cases, the families have acknowledged. So I would say that most of the names on this Swarajya list, please see these, can be confirmed as having happened. In most of these cases, the pattern is sort of similar, which is people coming on motorcycle, 2 people coming on motorcycle. In some cases, there have been 6 also on different bikes or in different circumstances or different patterns, and then killing the chosen person. Most of these people who've been killed have a history of having carried out quote-unquote operations or terror attacks in India, mostly in Kashmir. Although there is one who's held responsible for what happened, for example, in Pathankot, there is also one who was supposedly one of the hijackers of IC-814. I will give you some names as we go ahead. Now, Adnan Hanzla has become a story also today because just yesterday, a man called Lakhbir Singh Rode, now 71, a nephew of Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, he died. He died of a heart attack. Nobody has made any other claims, nor is there any story of any violence having been carried out on him. But the fact, however, is that in the Pakistani media and also in some of the Sikh radical linked media in Canada, UK, etc., it had been reported that Lakhbir Singh Rode also was seen to be under threat from quote-unquote Indian agencies, and also that he had been warned by the Pakistani agencies or Pakistani security agencies to be careful. Also, his security had been tightened. He had also been moved to a different area. Now, all this is happening not without context. In fact, I was listening to the US congressional hearings. Congresswoman was asking these distinguished presidents of the top American universities, including Harvard, Pennsylvania, and MIT, that calling for genocide of Jews, is that anti-Semitism or not? The answer that really stood out was it depends on the context, right? So once again, in this case also, everything depends on the context. And what is the context? The context is, look at your timeline. In September, Justin Trudeau said Indian agencies, or it could be, or at least there were allegations that there could be Indian agents involved in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey, British Columbia, in Canada. That happened in September. So check out the context. And the context lies in the timeline. 22nd of November, the Financial Times scooped a story. Financial Times, Dimitri Sevastopoulos, great scoop. He scooped a story that US government or US Justice Department was going to charge an Indian quote-unquote officer, agent, and also an Indian person in an assassination plot, in a plot to assassinate Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, the leader of, or the so-called leader of Sikhs for Justice, right? That story came out on 22nd of November. 23rd of November, Pakistan Foreign Office issued a statement saying that this is a terrible thing, that India is doing this all over the place, etc. The important thing is that November 22, FT story came out. November 21, a publication called the Intercept. Now, Intercept is something that I take quite seriously because they do a lot of research. They also write about security, espionage, subversion, wars, military issues, etc., etc. And they do quite a bit of research. Usually, they are not taken lightly, and I don't take them lightly. So, November 21st, the Intercept carried an article, and this was an article written by Murtaza Hussain and Ryan Grimm, a double byline. That article, they claimed, was based on a leaked Pakistani secret document. Pakistani secret intelligence assessment, and they went on to say this is the assessment of the Pakistani Intelligence Bureau, which is run by the civilian authority, by the Pakistani Ministry of Interior, unlike ISI, which is run by the Pakistani military. So this is the Pakistani, allegedly or supposedly or claimed to be Pakistani Intelligence Bureau's assessment, which claimed that India was now planning and carrying out, Indian agencies were planning and also carrying out successfully assassinations of Kashmiri and Sikh separatists in other parts of the world. That report, however, or that supposed report, however, does not talk about any of these operations in countries other than Pakistan. That report mostly lists the incidents in Pakistan. But once again, see how it's moving. November 21, the Intercept. November 22, the Financial Times. November 23, the Pakistani Foreign Office statement. November 29, the unsealing of the indictment in the Pannu case in the New York court, right? So the whole thing has moved very quickly. On top of it, we've seen the death of Lakhbir Singh Rode, which so far looks like a natural heart attack death. But this Intercept piece also tells us that Indian intelligence, it says that Pakistani intelligence report says that Lakhbir Singh Rode was under surveillance of Indian agencies in Lahore. And what is the evidence? The evidence is that among the many dossiers that Indian agencies or Indian government had given to Pakistan, saying that they were harboring Indian terrorists there, they had also been given pictures, pictorial evidence of where Lakhbir Singh Rode was living, the Gurdwara he was going to. So the Pakistanis knew, they had been forewarned by the Indian side that, look, we know where this guy is. And they had tried to move him away, and they tried to move him to greater security. So that is the context of Lakhbir Singh Rode as well. And now you have Adnan Tansla, so you can presume that there will be more talk about it, and there will be further fuel added to this fire, because right now India is caught in this controversy. Indian agencies are also under the microscope internationally, particularly among India's allies in the Anglosphere, and at this point this will add further fuel to the fire. Now the Intercept article, when I read the Intercept article, I also see a link there, and that's an article published by Atlantic Council, which is a serious think tank kind of organization in the US, on March 2023. And that article was anonymous. The name of the author was kept anonymous. There was a note under the article, and I will share a link with you, which says anonymous. That article was shortly after publication, that article was taken down. Taken down means deleted. And as they took it down, Atlantic Council said the reason they gave was that this is being pulled down because, and I quote from their explanation, because it did not go through the Atlantic Council's standard editorial processes prior to publication. If you believe that, you might believe in jinns as well. But something happened there. It was an anonymous article. This article was published, as I just told you, on May 20, 2023. What did this article say? This article listed a couple more incidents in Pakistan. So one of the incidents the article listed was the killing of Syed Khalid Raza. Syed Khalid Raza was known to be or at least described as an educationist. In Karachi, he was killed in a similar style by two motorcycle-borne gunmen in Karachi's Gulistane-Johar colony, right? Once again, taking a walk. Immediately, the police thought it was a robbery gone wrong. But soon enough, they realized that when robberies go wrong, robbers don't kill you by firing a single shot in your head. So it looks like this was a killing, targeted killing, carried out by trained people. And soon enough, Pakistani police also, Karachi police also said that this looked like a targeted killing. This was not a robbery gone wrong. Now, who was Syed Khalid Raza? I am now quoting from the article that Atlantic Council published and which they took down shortly afterwards, saying that this did not pass their editorial standards. Anonymously written article. The article tells us that he was formerly a member of Al-Badr, which is a familiar or used to be a very familiar terror organization in Kashmir with a very strong Pakistani connection. He had escaped to Pakistan, but there was a time when General Musharraf carried out a big crackdown against fundamentalist organizations, particularly militant fundamentalist organizations. This was also during a phase when Musharraf himself was being targeted by these organizations. There were multiple attempts on his life as well. At that point, he had melted away. The same Atlantic Council article tells us he had melted away, and now he was living pretending to be an educationist in Karachi. He was killed. And who claimed responsibility for his killings? I told you that Karachi police initially said, this looks like a robbery gone wrong. That is the standard line that police forces in this subcontinent have for anything that goes wrong under their watch, right? They said it's a targeted killing the next day, and that is when an organization called Sindhudesh Revolutionary Army, or SRA, they claimed responsibility for this killing. A week earlier, also in Karachi, there was the killing of a man called Bashir Ahmed. Bashir Ahmed, also known by his alias Imtiaz Alam, he was supposedly or allegedly previously had a long history of being a member of Hizbul Mujahideen. He was also seen to be somebody who worked very closely with the head of Hizbul Mujahideen, that is Syed Salahuddin. I am still quoting from the deleted Atlantic Council article. Then on March 2022, that's another incident mentioned in the article. March 2022, a man called Zahid Akhund, whose real name was Zahur Ibrahim, was also known by his alias Mistri. Does it sound familiar to you? And I will tell you why it sounds familiar. He was killed also again in a similar fashion. He was running a furniture shop in Karachi. He was again killed in a similar fashion with motorcycle-borne assailants who came in and shot him, and he died. You might remember that Mistri was a name that kept cropping up in the accounts of the victims of the IC-814 hijack. That means of the passengers and crew of the IC-814 hijack, because somebody was being addressed as Mistri. So this person, who was suspected to be one of the hijackers of IC-814, he was killed. Then once again in 2021, there was yet another attack where 3 persons were killed, and there also SRA, that is Sindhudesh Revolutionary Army, which had claimed responsibility. This article goes on to say, and other writings in Pakistani media and international media go on to say, that Sindhudesh Revolutionary Army is not an organization that's well known, and it's unlikely. But beyond that, there isn't that much that's known about Sindhudesh Revolutionary Army. In fact, some of the bigger attacks carried out in Balochistan and also in Karachi, particularly against Chinese interests, have been attributed to Baloch organizations, not the Sindhudesh Revolutionary Army. Now, while this has come up in the same period, see one more article. I told you context is important. And context in this case is the timeline. In the same period of about 10-15 days, an article came up in The Guardian, and I will share a link with you. In The Guardian, now this is an article highlighting the fact that the family of another prominent Sikh radical who died not a long time back, Avtar Singh Khanda. Avtar Singh Khanda died, and it was then said that he died of a very advanced stage of leukemia. Medical authorities, the British police authorities, they said that we have concluded that this is a natural death. It had nothing to, there was no case of poisoning, although there was a lot of talk of poisoning at that point of time. You might have seen there was also celebration in Indian social media by the pro-government handle saying, oh wow, one more put away. But at the same time, important thing is, the factual thing is that the British authorities and the British police said that we've carried out an inquest, we've looked at everything, this looks like a natural death. He had advanced leukemia and died because of multi-organ failure. Now his family has come up again and said that, look, in view of what's happened to Niger and its view of the revelations on Pannu, we once again want you to investigate if this was a case of poisoning by Indian agencies. And now the Guardian has done this story, giving some bit of credibility to these allegations. So Avtar Singh Khanda's name has also come up. As I read up this Intercept article in more detail, and also that earlier Atlantic Council article, the deleted Atlantic Council article, I'm also directed, because there are links, I'm also directed to a couple of stories in Dawn, which is a respected Pakistani newspaper. I will share the links of these stories with you. These talk about some other incidents. For example, Maulana Rahimullah Tariq. Maulana Rahimullah Tariq, he was killed at Orangi. Orangi is a kind of sprawl in Karachi, like a semi-slum sprawl in Karachi, not very different from Dharavi in Mumbai. There, and this is a story reported by ARY, Pakistani news channel ARY, and I see the story from there. He was also killed by bike-borne assailants. Initially, it was said that this is also a robbery gone wrong, but then SSP West, Karachi, issued a statement saying it's a targeted killing. Maulana Rahimullah Tariq was known to be a Masood Azhar aide. Just a week earlier, Akram Khan Ghazi, who was known to be a senior commander of Lashkar-e-Toiba, he was also killed by bike-borne assailants, this time not in Karachi or not in Sindh or not in Punjab, but in Bajaur district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. He was known to be one of the prominent recruiters for Kashmiri terrorist organizations, so Pakistan-based Kashmiri terrorist organizations. Then you come to 5th of November. All of this is happening in November. 5th of November, Khwaja Shahid, who was also known, or more popularly known by his alias Mia Mujahid, he was supposedly the mastermind of Sunjwan. Remember the Sunjwan army camp attack? Sunjwan is a big army installation, and that's where an attack took place. It was what is called as a Fidain attack, a suicide attack, which led to 6 being killed. He was found killed, he was found dead, his body was found, and how and where? His body was found next to the LOC on the Pakistani controlled side, next to the LOC, beheaded. So he had been kidnapped earlier and abducted earlier, he was reported missing, and then his beheaded body was found next to the LOC. Now these publications, the Intercept article, the Atlantic Council article, and lots of other writings also, they mention the fact, not just that Lakhbir Singh Rode was under threat and had been warned by Pakistani authorities, and that he had been surveilled by Indian agencies, and Indian agencies had themselves told the Pakistani authorities that, listen, don't tell me, don't be in denial, don't tell us that he doesn't live in Pakistan. We have evidence. Here is evidence that he lives in Pakistan, right? The idea might have been to tell them to desist from doing this, but they instead used that information to give him better protection. His son Bhagat Singh lives in Canada, and his son Bhagat Singh has been saying that his life is under threat also. That said, Government of India has also demanded from Canadian government to take action against Bhagat Singh, and on Bhagat Singh, they put a flying ban. So he can't take a flight outside of Canada, he can't leave Canada to take a flight out, but as these things go in Canada, he can happily take any flights he wishes in Canada, but he lives in Canada. The Intercept article also goes on to say that the Pakistani Intelligence Bureau believes that the Indian intelligence agencies are running their operations from UAE, but also from parts of Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. For example, the place they mention in Afghanistan is Spin Boldak. Spin in Dari means a desert, an empty expanse, empty big expanse of barren desert. So Spin Boldak, and they say Indians have a camp there from where they are training and assigning people to target, and I am quoting from the report, to target to wanted Sikh personalities in Pakistan. Of course, the counter question to that is, what are the Sikh personalities wanted in India doing in Pakistan? Because if these are Indian citizens wanted on terror charges in India, why are they sitting in Pakistan? And in most cases, why are they sitting in Pakistan for many years, if not decades in some cases? Earlier in the year, Paramjit Singh Panjwar, the leader of the Khalistan, so-called Khalistan Commando Force, he was also assassinated, again by bike-borne assailants in Lahore when he'd gone out for a morning walk. In his case, the Pakistanis refused to give visas to his sons who would live in Germany now, who wanted to come back for the last rites, etc. But once again, the question arises, why was a man wanted in India for such a long time, for so many acts of terrorism, an Indian citizen, why was he living in Pakistan? While all this tamasha is going on, all this commotion is going on, one more story has come out. On this one, we have no confirmation yet, although a lot of Indian media has reported this. But we don't have a confirmation yet. That is Sajid Mir. Once again, you might remember that name, Sajid Mir. Sajid Mir was the controller of the 26/11 attackers. He was the controller of the attackers. He's been charged under Indian law for being the mastermind of the 26/11 attacks. He's also been charged by FBI. He's a wanted man for FBI. He has a 2011 warrant against him issued by a court in Chicago. So he is an internationally wanted terrorist. Pakistanis have kept him in jail. Now, keeping these guys in jail in Pakistan can mean anything. It can mean genuinely putting them in jail so they can't cause nuisance to anybody else. It can also mean to put them in jail so that they remain protected and they don't have to be handed over to the Americans in this case, because the Americans would want him extradited. No Pakistani would be extradited to India, that we know. In the jail, he was in Dera Ghazi Khan Central Jail, and these unconfirmed reports are unconfirmed but widely reported. These unconfirmed reports say that he was poisoned in the jail, and from there he's been airlifted in a critical condition to a sizable military hospital away from Dera Ghazi Khan. Once again, we have no confirmation about it. He was also named as one of the planners in the attack on the Danish newspaper which carried those cartoons. This Sajid Mir, rumored to be poisoned now, he's the same terrorist whose designation as a global terrorist is being blocked by the Chinese at the UN. In fact, you can get a lot of detail about Sajid Mir and what happened in his case and the Chinese intervention in his support in this article by Praveen Swami. There are many more cases. I'm only listing those that are confirmed also in Pakistani media. Mohammad Shahid Latif, for example, he is widely believed by Indian intelligence agencies or Indian prosecutors as having been involved in planning the attack, 2016 attack on the Pathankot Air Base. Mohammad Shahid Latif, he had by now become a Maulana. He was now a Maulana, one of the muezzins at the Daska Mosque in Narowal in Pakistan's Punjab. He was killed along with his security guard. His killing took place on October 11th. So you can see that this sequence of events has been moving very fast. He was a muezzin at Noori Madina Mosque at Narowal. In 1994, he had been arrested on a terror charge in India, in Kashmir. He served a sentence. He was in jail till 2010, and after he was released, he managed to escape to Pakistan, and that is where he might have started a new life. I don't know, but it does seem that he was still involved with Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar. More about him you can read in a story that Ananya Bhardwaj wrote for us, and the print, I'm sharing a link with you. You will also see a screenshot of the front page of the story on your screens as we go along. So if you look at this entire sequence and the timing and the dates not just of the incidents but also of certain publications, also of certain things being made public in different parts of the world, then you can get the context a little bit more clearly. And that was the purpose of my doing this episode of Cut The Clutter.